All right, today we're going to go over the strategy using Scorchers, tanks, and Dr.Kavan. The biggest issue with this strategy is Kavan following the Scorchers and trying to heal them. The explosion could easily kill him, and once the Scorchers are dead, he can easily get targeted by some of the nastier defenses. Now, something else working against us, this tribe cycle, is that defensive building damage boost. That is definitely not helping. Not only that, but for the last Mega Crab, I took out one of my gunboat energy statues for 1 troop damage statue. Now, while I could trade these out right now, because I do have 2 that are good enough, I would rather have a better damage statue waiting so that I can switch it back when the crab comes again. Which is the end of the month, and supposedly it's going to be one that doesn't have recharged on attacks. We'll see what all that's about later. Now, onto the meat of this. Now, the biggest issue is going to be these little shock mines. And you need to find them all. 1, 2, 3. Good. Now, the shock mines will shock a Scorcher longer than a shock launcher. In that time, the tanks could destroy enough defenses where the tanks are close enough to the Scorchers where Dr.Kavan will start to heal the Scorchers and follow them. So we want to avoid that. And also due to the only having 1 gunboat energy statue, I'm only taking 3 Scorchers. Normally when I've done this, I take 4. Now this is a good practice base. It has some of the damage from tribes, but not all of it. Looks to be about 30%? Yeah. Maybe 30%, somewhere around there. And no HP. So this will be fairly simple. Now in this strategy, you also need to have something else. You have to be willing to lose Scorchers. So endless reserves is pretty much a must. At least if you want to take multiple bases. Because in this strategy, we don't care about losing Scorchers because we're going to replace them. Another thing is, when you launch the tanks, you need to inflict damage to them. That way, Dr.Kavan will follow them and heal them instead of the Scorchers, initially. As soon as he hits the initial flare, he'll start healing. He targets afterwards. Take out the shock mines. Now we can revive 1 of them. There's shock those. As you see, going fairly well. We're about to lose another. Or 2. We'll try to prevent that. Now something else to remember is revived Scorchers. If they die, it's permanent. You cannot revive them. Another can be revived, but really not necessary. And as you can see, we could easily roll through this space. Now, it helps that I have quite a bit of red statues. And if you're wondering, it's a total of 72% to HP and 80% damage. So a base like that only has about 30% building damage, it's not going to be able to stop it. Not at all. Another thing is the lack of any real threats. Now this base, at the moment, would be probably out of my reach. With the 50% to the damage and the grappler, I probably won't be able to take that out easily. But just for the heck of it, we are going to give it a go. Now, another thing to remember is we do have extra artillery damage. Mine is not maxed. It should be. That grappler is the biggest threat of all. Now for this, let's see. We have 15 tanks. 45 energies required to launch a tank. So that we take a Scorcher and a couple tanks. Now, we're gonna wait. We need that extra energy for another Scorcher. And as you can see, that ended very badly. Due to the lack of energy. Alright. And that is what can go wrong. The lack of energy really hurts this. But we were going to give that one another go on that base. We're not going to buff, because right now for this demonstration that would be cheating, more or less. So we're going to do something else, if I can remember what that was. Yeah, it slipped my mind for a minute. I really don't remember. Ah, that's it. Tribes. Don't have enough of that yet. So for that base, we're going to come back to it later when we can add some damage to that artillery. We're going to leave these for now, so that when we have the supply chest, it'll be an easy one to go through. Just click and click. Now this is definitely out of reach, especially with the dampening fire. With the lack of energy, I can't take out both. I would have to do the grappler, and this would utterly destroy me at the moment. Now, we'll check this base, the next one. A little odd placement, but this has no buffs at all. Taking this base of the strategy might as well be cheating. It's not fair at all. Now this would be like a base without tribes, without any ISIS. Now, if I was buffed, I could virtually roll through virtually every single base on my map with this, despite the tribes. But we're not going to do that. Now, as you can see, Kavan is staying behind the tanks. He's not going to the Scorchers. Just like I prepared for. Even now the tanks have caught up, he won't go to the Scorchers. Now, you see, notice there? Kavan is now healing the Scorcher. That is because the Scorcher got shocked, and the tanks got closer to him. So now it's within a range where he can actually heal it. It's just like medics. If you have troops that are damaged and they're far enough apart, they won't go to both. Generally. Okay, maybe not that as an example. Okay, let's take Scorchers as an example. After a few seconds of attacking, they'll go to another building to attack. But if the buildings are far enough apart, the Scorcher will not go to that building. The same applies to Kavan in his healing. Now, you normally don't see it with medics because, well, there's so many of them, it's hard to keep track. But Kavan is much easier to keep track of. I really don't know. I would assume they would work the same, but you never know. Now for this base. Ooh, it's a bit of a buff here. But there's a difference. We don't have to use our energy on any of the buildings. Now that one, it would be nice, but we can avoid it. We'll just tank it. Now we'll see what happens when we don't have to spend energy on taking out a defense. This would be like statues versus statues. Now, the other thing to remember for this tribes is artillery is going to deal a lot more damage. My tanks survive because they have a 72% to health. For someone that doesn't, that artillery would have killed that tank. Thus, the strategy would be basically pointless. We're gonna shock these defenses because of how much high damage they have. Okay, we're down 1. Only 2 revives left. About to be 1. Shoot. The bad thing is we lost a tank. Since it is the most recent loss, it was replaced instead of the Scorcher. Now we're gonna flare here because we want to avoid this. Ouch. And those riflemen are actually providing a bit of a buff. If we get enough energy, let's see. No, we would still revive a tank. We're gonna take out that rocket launcher and take out the other one. Basically, for the rest of the time, we're just basically going to go through the shield. Now, normally, you don't get to avoid too many defenses with Scorchers. Those stupid tanks. Flare them too close to each other. But either way, this will work. And it's more or less of I would consider a tie in this case. I mean, the buffs to the buildings here were greater than my own here. Most of the time when I'm attacking things, that is not the case. Virtually all the time, my buffs are higher. I've always been that way. Had higher troop statues than defensive ones that I face. But as a consequence, I usually have only had 2 or 3 gunboat energy statues to work with. Now, I'm going to take only a couple more with this strategy. I mean, we basically covered the basics of it. More or less. So we'll just take one or two more and we'll be on our way here. Now this one, a little different. It's more of a beachish base. This base is obviously designed right now to take out Rainmakers. But that's not our problem. Ideally, we would probably want to use Rifleman, Zuka, Medic, and Crowneers for this one. This base in particular. It's heavy loaded with the singles in the front, and most of the ones that would be harmful for Riflemen are in the back. How convenient. In a way, Rainmakers did cause this base to die. Well, at least they would. They might as well have, because it's the reason. It's the reason that it's like this. Okay, we lost the tank before the Scorcher, so we can revive it. Now, the Scorchers took heavy damage to start off with. So did the tank. I lost 2 tanks. Yeah. We'll release another Scorcher there, revive it. And that'll pretty much probably be it. We're not going to let these Scorchers die here. Use gunboat energy to help out a little bit. And there we go. Now, the weakness to this strategy is probably the same as Scorchers and tanks. Grapplers. Okay, not Doom Cannons, because normally, if I was going to run Scorchers and tanks, I would have Bullet in there. And he would be tanking the Doom Cannon shots. So the strategy is good for the ones that don't have that. Especially this one base we have here. Don't think it's this one. No, it's not. There's one base that, in particular, if I haven't reset it, it would be very, very stupid to attack it with this. Nope. I haven't actually attacked in a while. Here we are. This one. 3 grapplers. Now, if you attack this with this strategy, you deserve your fate. You are going to die. Now, the 3 is the problem. If it was 2, we could probably get away with this, actually. If I had the energy to do it, I would show you. That's why we'll save this for later. Now, if I was going to take one with 2 Scorchers, not 2 Scorchers, 2 grapplers, it is possible. I've done it before. Now, to do this, you let the grappler take the Scorcher. Now, the second grappler, now in my with the base I did this one of the grapplers is there. The other one was a little bit behind it, somewhere like, say, around there. That kind of distance. Now, this grappler would take the Scorcher, the first one. And then, when it takes, at the same time it takes the second one from around here, the grappler behind would take the Scorcher it initially grabbed. Now, after this, the 2 grapplers will just take off of one another. They'll just trade the 2 Scorchers back and forth because the two Scorchers are the closest troop to the front grappler. Now, when the rest of your army gets closer than that one Scorcher that was taken by the second grappler, then the grappler will start targeting the Scorchers that are left in your regular army. At that point is when I shock them. That's one way you could deal with it without actually using too much gunboat energy. Little unique tidbit there. Because in particular, there's an operation base that has tons of grapplers, and they actually play off each other. That's where I got the idea from. But this base probably be out of our reach. We would have to shock them. Would shock one of them, let one take a Scorcher, then let that one take one. That one take a second one. Meanwhile, our army's on the other side. But the problem is this is much farther than the army would be. So that wouldn't work either. Oh well. Well, I believe that is everything you need to know. Though there is one more thing. With second wind, you can add also riflemen to reviving Scorchers as either extra damage or a meat shield for the boom cannons and such. And another thing, this is an absolute requirement. You have to have second wind level 6. Otherwise, you can't revive Scorchers. And if you try this strategy without reviving Scorchers, that's the whole point of it, is reviving Scorchers. It's hard enough to go through 4 Scorchers, let alone go through 8. Anyways, that concludes little tutorial.